From the delicious racks of the Camp Nelson warehouse comes the latest release in the Wild Turkey Master's Keep series. Master's Keep Bottled and Bond, the 5th release in the series, is a 17-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey and is only the 2nd ever Wild Turkey bourbon to carry the Bottled and Bond label. It's a damn good day. Let's get into this Old Turkey on the Mash and Drum. With Wild Turkey's long and amazing heritage, you would think Bottled and Bond designations would be common releases throughout time since their inception. Surprisingly, Wild Turkey has only had one Bottled and Bond release before this beauty sitting right here. In 2007, Wild Turkey released American Spirit, which was a 15-year-old 100 proof Bottled and Bond release that supposedly is Jimmy Russell's favorite bourbon. Fast forward to 2015, and then here comes Eddie Russell with his first release of Master's Keep 17-year-old bourbon. Then followed up each year with a different release, including Decades, Revival, their first rye last year, which was Cornerstone, and now this year's release is the Wild Turkey Master's Keep 17-year Bottled and Bond. With our own Master's Keep Bottled and Bond, we took the historic process and protocol of aging for 4 years to the next level and allowed the liquid to rest for 17 years, said Eddie Russell, master distiller at Wild Turkey. We aged and perfected this rare 17-year-old bourbon in Wild Turkey's Camp Nelson rickhouses. This expression is a nod to the past, both our own heritage and the heritage of American whiskey making as a craft. Now, the fact that this was exclusively aged in Camp Nelson warehouses is what really makes this bourbon exciting to try, since some of those amazing Russell's Reserve single barrel selections come from that very same warehouse. So, like the Master's Keeps before this one, it's a limited release with approximately 14,400 bottles available for purchase. It's bottled at 100 proof, it's 17 years old, and carries an MSRP of about 175 bucks. All right, so I am super friggin' excited to try this one. I'm not wasting any time. Let's get to the nose, guys. Here we go. Oh my God. I could smell this all day. First thing I pick up is a ton of vanilla extract. It's so sweet on the nose. The second most dominant flavor I'm picking up here is a rich Luxardo cherry note. Really deep and rich and sweet. If you've ever smelled the inside of a freshly charred barrel and the caramels and the smoke that's coming out of there, you could definitely pick that up in the glass. Very deep, rich caramel and vanilla flavors here. Man, if you've ever been to a carnival and you've gotten a funnel cake, like a fresh funnel cake right out of the fryer with the powdered sugar on top, maybe drizzle some cherry syrup on that, and that's what's coming out of the glass for me. Let me get some air in this thing. Now, it is 17 years old, so I did let this sit in the glass a little bit before I smelled it and let it open up just to see some of the flavors come out here. Man, there's a citrus note that I usually pick up in a Wild Turkey that I am getting this bottle, but it's like dark and it's rich. It's almost like an orange peel that's been lit on fire and it's been like almost caramelized. When you get a little deeper, there's some barrel char there, almost like a barbecue smoke. Yeah, this nose just, I could smell this all day, so I'm gonna stop talking about the nose. Let's go in for a sip. Cheers, here we go. Oh man, that is some turkey. That is good turkey. Wow. Even at 100 proof, this has a good amount of spice right up front on the palate. But I mean, all that deep, rich caramel and the vanillas that I was getting on the nose, I mean, that immediately hits you up front. It's so sweet. There's a lot of spice that's going on. You definitely get like that burnt orange, but then there's a rich molasses note in here. The first sip was a little ridiculous. All right, now the palate's calmed down. Let's go for another sip here. Cheers. All right, so second sip, all that intensity went away a little bit. Now I'm starting to taste all the flavors here. The cherry note that I was getting on the nose, definitely coming through on the palate. The Luxardo cherry, then mixed with that almost like a smoked orange note. But man, the back end of this is where it shines. The finish on this, it's almost like a butterscotch mocha flavor going on the very back end. That's really incredible. You definitely get some barrel char there. A little bit of that smoke that I was picking up on the nose as well. So this is kind of attacking my taste buds in stages here. Like there's a big rush of sweetness right up front. Then in the mid palate, you get the cherry, the citrus, some of the smoke. Then once this hits the back of the palate, man, this is molasses, mocha, oak char, some of the ages coming through. You definitely pick up a little bit of that age. Maybe like kind of an old leather note, you know, that you get in some ultra aged bourbons. This thing is, it's easily one of the best turkey profiles I've had. Let's go for another sip. This is so good. It's staying consistent. I love the age on it, the sweet, the spice. But the most interesting thing to me about this release, and perhaps the thing I was worried about the most, was it being only 100 proof. Now, I love cask strength bourbons, and I was worried that the 100 proof would dilute some of the flavors that I could be missing. But it's not the case at all. I will say, to me, the finish isn't that super spicy cinnamon and citrus and pepper finish that I'm used to with Wild Turkey. And it's not a bad thing at all. It's actually an amazing thing, because what you do get is a different type of sweet spice. I mean, there's pepper, but it's mixed with really deep, rich sweet oak, a little bit of that smoky oak char, a hint of like a mocha caramel thing going on. And at cask strength, I feel like we may have missed those little nuances that could have been there, because it might have been overpowered by the proof. There is also this thing I call the after finish. So after you swallow this and you taste it and you taste all those flavors, if you wait a few seconds after the next sip, if you can, this lingering sweet spice, vanilla, cherry, and that smoke note just all of a sudden comes back and appears again. It's delicious stuff. One last sip here. All right, so last sip. So good. Front of the palate, caramelized sugars, vanillas, a little bit of that funnel cake note that kicks in that I was talking about earlier with the powdered sugar and the little bit of that smoke note. Then the cherry just kicks in, a lot of cherry, a lot of citrus as well. Not as much citrus as I'm used to with Wild Turkey, but more of that cherry note, definitely some spice. Then once this thing hits the finish, that's where it really shines. You get a lot of that oak char, you get a lot of that, more of the caramel, some of that smoke note comes in, a little bit of that mocha chocolate type thing going on, maybe a hint of leather as well. And then after you wait a little bit, the finish starts to come back a little bit, and then you get more sweetness, a little bit more smoke. It's an absolutely delicious bourbon. All right, so price for this is about 175 bucks. Secondary market value, I've seen this as high as about 300 to 350. Availability is limited, as I mentioned, only roughly 14,400 bottles, and this one seems to be a bit more allocated than previous releases based on me just trying to get one myself. For the value on this, I'm gonna say high. When you combine the quality and the flavor in this bottle, along with a 17-year age statement for an MSRP of 175 bucks, I think it's worth every penny. Eagle Rare 17, which retails for about 150 bucks, but is normally sold at crazy prices up to $2,000. Then you have Very Old St. Nick has a 17-year bourbon, about $500 to $800 as well. The Willet Purple Top bourbons that get into the 15 to 17-year-old range are over $1,000. I mean, it's crazy. So when you compare this to those prices, this is an absolute bargain from one of the best distilleries in Kentucky. Do I recommend? Yes. I give this 5 out of 5 gobbles. I think any bourbon lover would be able to appreciate this bourbon, not only for the price, but for the amount of flavor that this provides and the experience overall. The mix of sweet and spice, that Wild Turkey profile with that level of maturity at 17 years old, the lingering sweet finish, and the 100 proof, which doesn't hurt this bourbon at all. I think it made it that much more enjoyable. For you turkey fans out there, those of you that hunt down Russell's Reserve picks from Camp Nelson like I do, those of you that just love Wild Turkey, this is a must-have for your collection if you can get it. It's one of those that you will love when you have it, and one of those that will make you very sad when it's gone. It's definitely jumped into the top 5 of my favorite bourbons that I've had this year, and I cannot wait to see how this opens up even more. All right, everyone, well, I hope you enjoyed this review for the brand new Wild Turkey Master's Keep 17-year-old bottled and bond bourbon. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. If you did, hit that subscribe button below. Please hit that like button. If you haven't yet, find me on Instagram and find me on Twitter. Let me know what you think of this. I always love talking to you guys. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. So cheers, and I am going to gobble until I wobble. Cheers.